So my wife was complaining about the driver's seat in the CJ feeling like it was leaning out towards the door. And after doing a quick check, it definitely seemed like it was a little off tilt. So what I did is I started off by wiggling it so it would be level. And then I checked with respect to the dash that the vehicle's more or less level. But the seat is definitely a little bit off, which is understandable. This does have a fiberglass tub, so it could be that the tub is not perfectly flush. So what I figured I'll do is I'll put some spacers below the two mounting points on the near the door to raise it up. So and if I put a few stacked washers on the back, which is going to be my reference point for now, it does help, but not enough. So I do have to tilt up the seat a fair bit, closer to about 1 inch. For the seat to be perfectly level. So now with roughly 1 inch spacer at the bottom, and if I recheck at the top, I'm darn close to being perfect. So the only drawback here is that because of the amount of lift, it's tilting it quite a bit into the center console, which would cause a bunch of other little ripple effects. So I'm not going to put as much of a spacer as what I had to put in here for it to work, but I will put in a good amount so that it feels more natural as we're driving it. So what did I learn on the vehicle? So something that's roughly 3/4 of an inch thick would put us exactly where we need to be. 3/8 is too little. So I got to find something in between those. So what I found is a piece of plastic that is 3/8 thick. So I'm planning on stacking a few of these, finding the right number of layers to make it work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in sections of 1 3/4 wide, then 3 inches long. Should give me 4 pieces in this width that I can then stack together. Here goes. So I've got roughly a 3/8 thick piece. It's more or less 1 1/2 to 3/4, depending on how badly I kept this lined up. So now I'm going to cut this up into 4 equal pieces, and then I can stack them and start planning on where to drill the holes. So now I've got these 4 pieces. It's not the nicest cuts, but seeing where they're going, I can live with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly clean up the edges where I did the cuts, just so that from the outside it looks presentable. Again, it's going under the seat, so it's not the end of the world. And depending on the material you use and how you cut it, your cuts are definitely going to be cleaner. So now that I've got a rough idea of what I'm going to have as blocks, when I stack them, I'm going to be roughly at a hair under 3/4 of an inch. So that should do just fine for what I need. So I'm going to do a quick test fit in the vehicle before I start placing the holes and figuring out a way of whether or not I really have to worry about cleaning up the edges so it looks a little bit cleaner, or if I'll just live with it, seeing as they're going to be under the seat at the floorboard in a Jeep. So now that I've got those blocks underneath the seat, look at what happens to the seat. That's just wonderful. So we'll do a test fit, see how it feels from a location compared to the console, and from there I'll decide if I'll stick with this or do a slight variance on this. So it seems like 1 spacer underneath each bracket is going to be just right. It's leaning in just a little bit, but I think it's going to be a nice compromise between it feeling a little bit more level and what it does to the distance between the seat and the console. So now I'll start etching where I have to line up my holes so I can then feed the bolts and tighten down the seat. So now that I've transferred onto the blocks where I have to make the holes, I'll do that with the drill press, and it'll end up cleaning up between the different holes afterwards with the Dremel if required. So now I've got both pieces almost ready. I'll do a little cleanup of the holes with the Dremel so that I end up with more of a elongated circle or oval, whatever you want to call it, than two drill openings. Well, that should do the trick. Time to slide them underneath the seat and start installing the right bolts and tighten it down. So now the two sides of the seat are bolted down. The seat is almost where it should be, so this will definitely be a lot more comfortable when driving. And just for reference, the CJ is leaning a little bit, so the seat's pretty darn close to being level with it.